What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another treasure format video. And in this video, we're going to be discussing a very popular deck, Harpies. Now, I experimented with Harpies in Critter format, and I think it's actually pretty good in that format. And it did get some new tools from Magic Ruler. So I'm very curious to see if it can be as good as it was in Critter format here. But before I dive into the deck itself, I just want to thank you all for getting me up to 400 subscribers in the month of January. Maybe we reached 400 in the wee hours of February 1st, but still, we hit that goal, and I'm very excited for that, so thank you so much for supporting me and subscribing. And now that we've hit 400, my goal for February is to hit 500. I know February is a shorter month, so maybe it's less realistic, but I'm hoping we can do it. So if you like my videos and you're not already subscribed, please do that. It really helps out the channel a lot. In addition, if you want to play some of the more obscure formats that I talk about in these videos, like Treasure format, then we have a Discord server. Link will be in the description down below. But it's a great place to find people to play in these very, very interesting formats that are also very, very underexplored. And lastly, if you enjoyed the video, as always, please leave a like down below. But with that out of the way, let's dive in to Harpies. So Harpies is basically kind of like an OTK deck, but not really. The damage that it puts on board is formidable, but it's not really enough to kill your opponent in one blow. So in Critter format at least, it's sort of functioned as a Muka Muka turbo deck, just trying to wear your opponent down a bit and get them to waste removal on Muka Mukas before you make the big Harpy push and get in for that last bit of damage. Here, we've sort of lost out on the ability to use Muka Muka as effectively, given the hand rips in the format now. So we've sort of shifted gears. The deck is still basically trying to make a big OTK push later on, but we've sort of shifted what our big monsters that we're getting our opponent to waste removal on are. So, of course, we have 3 Mechanical Chaser, as that's the biggest vanilla level 4 beater in the format, and is thus very good. But we've also got some more interesting options as well. Flying Kamakiri number 1 is a recruiter that can get out Harpy Lady onto the field after it's destroyed by battle, and that is its primary purpose in the deck. But we are playing 2 copies of Rising Air Current, which is the field spell that increases the attack of wind monsters by 500, to boost this thing up to 1900, which will get it over Mechanical Chasers. So this can be quite a formidable threat. It won't quite get over like the 2K Defenders, and people have been experimenting with the 2K Defenders more in this format lately, but I do still think it's very formidable. In addition, Rising Air Current can give a boost to your eventual damage push, as it boosts up both Harpy Lady and Harpy Lady Sisters, so that's adding an additional 1000 damage. Speaking of Harpy Lady and Harpy Lady Sisters, we are playing 2 Harpy Lady and 1 Sisters. I think this is a good ratio to have if you don't want to brick as much. We're playing 2 Egotists as well to pair with these. This way, if we have 1 Harpy and 2 Egotists, they will be likely online, as while your primary target is Harpy Lady Sisters, Harpy Lady is also a target, so you can still get value off the Egotist, even if you've already gone through a Sisters. For the other monsters, we've got 2 Witch of the Black Forest, 2 Sangan, both just very, very good recruiters, being able to search pretty much anything you want in the deck, except for Harpy Lady Sisters, but you don't really ever want to search this card, as you would actually prefer it to stay in the deck, so that way you can not brick on it. We also have 3 Mystic Tomato. These can be great at fetching out these Sangans or Witches, and they can also be great at bringing out a Cannon Soldier for a last bit of damage. Cannon Soldier is very nice in this deck, because after you swarm the field with Harpy Lady Sisters and Harpy Lady, if you bring out a Cannon Soldier on top of that, that's 1500 additional damage, which might be enough to kill your opponent. That's going to do it for the monsters. For the spells, we have a Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, and Raigeki, the classic Power 5 limited spells, all incredibly, incredibly strong. Magic Ruler also gave us the 3 Hand Rips, Delinquent Duo, Confiscation, and Forceful Sentry, all additionally very strong in a very different way. And for the last limited spell in this deck, we've got Snatch Steal, which is very good at just taking your opponent's monster and getting even more aggressive when you're making your big damage push. We also have 3 Fisher to act as more removal, 3 Mystical Space Typhoon to act as spell and trap removal and clear the way for your big OTK push if you know that you're going to bring it out next turn. And lastly, we have the 2 Egotist, as I mentioned before. For the traps, we've got a Mirror Force, which is a very powerful card if you're able to pull it off. 3 Trap Hold to act even more removal to keep the board clear for you to make your big aggressive pushes. And that's it. You know, we could play things like Waboku as well, as Waboku is a pretty powerful card, but I think Waboku's power level has sort of fallen in this format, as your opponent can snipe it during the end phase with a Mystical Space Typhoon, and prevent you from really getting any value off of it. And the same complaint can be leveled against something like Trap Hole or Mirror Force, but these cards get more value when they do actually manage to activate. In addition, given that we're trying to go a bit more aggro, we aren't really as concerned with defense, and that could be one of the deck's flaws. It might be a reason to bring in Wabokus just in case. But I think it's fine not including them in the main here. We can keep it in the side to bring in against more aggressive decks. Speaking of the side deck, we've got the 3 Waboku that I just mentioned, 3 Solemn Judgment in case we're going up against a bit more of a controlling deck, playing counter traps of their own. We have 3 Tribute to the Doom to deal with strategies that set a lot of monsters like Mill or Burn. This can be very good at dealing with those. We also have 3 Mana Your Bug deck to even more removal, which can be very nice. And rounding out the side deck here, we have 1 Giant Tornado and 2 Heavy Storm to act as more spell and trap removal in case we go up against like a Burn or a Stall deck. But that's going to do it for the deck. I think this deck has kind of like shifted in how it's played a little bit from Critter format, and I guess we'll see if that's a good thing or a bad thing in the games I have for you today. So let's dive into those. Okay, we've got a game against Aratos, who is a great duelist in this format, has been really innovating a lot with the Good Stuff list, and you may see some of their innovations in the game today. So always pleasure to have them on. We are going to go into the rock, paper, scissors, and we do manage to win that, so we will be able to go first. And let's see how we do. We do draw a Hand Rip in Confiscation. That's a very good card to draw going first. We're just going to fire that off, and we do get to look at their hand. So we see what they've got. See that they've got a Sangan, Forceful Sentry, Snatch Steal, Mana Your Bug, and Mystic Tomato. Now, Mystic Tomato we can deal with the Fisher. Forceful Sentry is honestly fine, as we have 2 Recruiters in hand, which are the prime targets. We don't really care if the Harpy Lady gets shuffled back, as we can just bring it out again with the Kamakiri afterwards, so that's fine. And we can sort of just play around the Forceful in different ways, so we're fine with that. Snatch Steal is a bit of an issue, but honestly, if they Snatch Steal like a Mystic Tomato or a Kamakiri, we're fine with that. Mana Your Bug's a bit annoying, but, you know, if we leave them the Sangan, they can just get another Mana Your Bug. So I think, honestly, the choice is just to take the Sangan here. And we do indeed do that. So we discard the Sangan out of their hand. We now know what they've got. So we're just going to set a Mystic Tomato, set a Trap Hole, pass back to them. We figure they're likely going to either attack into the Mystic Tomato right away and then fire the Forceful, or they're just going to fire the Forceful to see what we've got. And it looks like they are indeed going to fire the Forceful. They're going to grab back the Kamakiri. Makes sense. Fisher is sort of a low impact spell, and Harpy Lady can just be brought out off of Kamakiri anyways, so this is fine by us. Kamakiri will get shuffled back into the deck, and they're just going to set 2 and pass back to us. We draw Egotist, which is pretty great. We can just bring out Harpy Lady and just go for that. Since we do know most of what's in their hand, we have to read that that's probably not Mirror Force unless they got really lucky. So we're just going to go for a major aggressive push here. Just in case it is Mirror Force, though, we are just going to keep the Mystic Tomato set, so that way we don't lose all of our monsters here. But luckily, it's not, and they're just going to pop the Harpy Lady Sisters with the Mana Your Bug they have set. We'll attack in for 1300, and I feel pretty fine about this. If they bring out like a Mystic Tomato to attack over the Harpy Lady, we do have a Trap Hole. They are going to bring out a Mystic Tomato, we are going to Trap Hole that. And they're just going to pass back to us. We draw another Trap Hole, which is perfect, honestly. We're going to flip up Mystic Tomato, attack in for 27 here with everything. And then we're just going to set the Trap Hole and pass back to them. Let's see what they do here. They are going to Reborn, targeting the Mystic Tomato, which is quite unfortunate for us. But it's not the worst thing in the world. They're going to attack into our Mystic Tomato, likely trying to get us to exhaust our entire supply. We're going to cut that off right away, though, and just bring out a Witch. We really don't want them to end on, like, a Recruiter, because that makes our Fisher pretty bad here. So we'd like them to end on a Mystic Tomato, even if that does mean losing our Harpy Lady. They are going to bring out a Mystic Tomato here and attack into the Harpy Lady. We'll take 100, and main 2, they're just going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Monster Reborn, which is pretty good. We might want to Reborn something here, actually. And it looks like we're just going to Fisher the Tomato, and we are indeed going to Reborn. We've got a couple good options here. We could bring out the Harpy Lady Sisters, as 1950 is pretty formidable, but we are just going to bring out the Mystic Tomato to play it a bit safe. We're going to attack into their set. If it is something like a Giant Soldier or something, then we kind of get punished here, but Harpy Lady Sisters wouldn't have been able to get over that anyways, so we're ultimately fine with it. It's just a Witch of the Black Forest. So they are going to grab a Mystic Tomato of their own, and we can attack in for 1100 here. We're just going to pass back to them, and we feel pretty comfortable with this position. They're going to summon out a Mystic Tomato. We're going to trap hole it. They're going to snatch steal our Mystic Tomato and attack into the Witch. We take 300 here, but we get a search, and we get 1,000 life points next turn. So I'm feeling perfectly fine about this. They just pass back to us. We draw Elegant Egotist, which is dead, but ultimately that doesn't really matter at this point. We're going to attack in to the Mystic Tomato here. That will get popped, and we will be able to get out another monster from deck. We're going to bring out a Cannon Soldier here. And I will be honest, I brought this out because I miscalculated. I thought that this would kill them. Unfortunately, we're 50 off. And so we've got to make a decision here. Do we just go for it, tributing our entire board to get them down to 50? And we decide not to, but we will tribute off the Cannon Soldier just in case. So we will deal 500 to them, get them down to 550, prevent them from being able to pay 1,000 for something like a Confiscation or a Duo. And then we're going to set the Egotist anyways, as it is dead, so we don't really care if they use spell and trap removal on it. They're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser, and they're just going to attack into our Mechanical Chaser. So that will destroy both. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw Snatch Steal, which isn't useful yet, but we can just keep it in hand because we know it can't get sniped anymore. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw Kamakiri, so we can bring that out and try and get in here. We attack, but unfortunately is a Giant Soldier of Stone, which is one of the big innovations that Aretos has been trying out in the good stuff list. Given all the high priority targets for removal in this format, having a monster that your opponent can't get over unless they use some form of removal is very, very good, and Giant Soldier of Stone fits that bill perfectly. It is a bit weak to something like Snatch Steal, sure, but ultimately, you know, it's not that bad if your opponent Snatch Steals it, as you're gaining 1,000 life points each turn, and Giant Soldier of Stone doesn't have much attack. So I like that inclusion a lot in the good stuff deck. We can't get over it, so we'll just pass back to them. They're just going to Heavy Storm the board away. We've got an Egotist. They've got a 7 tools, both dead, so it doesn't really matter there. They're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser, attack over Kamakiri, and we will just have Kamakiri replace itself and pass back. We draw a Pot of Greed, which is very good. We're going to activate that Pot of Greed and draw 2. This actually does just end the game here. We'll Fisher away their Giant Soldier, and we can either summon out Mechanical Chaser and crash, or just Snatch Steal. We're just going to bring out the Mechanical Chaser, and that's game 1. So we were able to win game 1 pretty handily. A very good showing for the Harpy Lady deck. Even though we weren't able to like OTK them, we were able to use our Harpy Lady and Harpy Lady Sisters to get pretty aggressive there. We did brick on Egotist late game, but ultimately it didn't matter in the end, and the Kamakiris really showed their worth by replacing themselves later on in the game. Let's see if game 2 will be as good as showing. I think we largely keep the deck the same in game 2, as, you know, it seems like Aretos is on good stuff, and I feel like we've already prepared for good stuff here. This is a pretty bad hand, but it can get a lot better if we draw something good off the pot and get a good confiscation play here. Let's see what we get. We draw 2, and Kamakiri is pretty good. We might consider actually Mystical Space Typhooning the set before summoning out Kamakiri, just in case it's a trap hole, to keep the Kamakiri online. But we do have the Monster Reborn for it in a worst case scenario, so it might be worth just going for it. We're going to Confiscation, and that will go through, so we will see what they've got. And these are some pretty good ones. They've got Fisher, Mechanical Chaser, Change of Heart, and Magician of Faith. And it's kind of tough because if we take one of their spells, they can just Magician of Faith it back. So honestly, the move might be the Magician of Faith here. We are indeed going to take the Faith, and then we're just going to bring out the Kamakiri, and that will unfortunately get Trap Hold. We're going to set one, pass back to them, and they're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser here. Flip up the Witch, attack in for 2950, and this is a lot of damage. We're down almost to half our life points here. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We could Mystical Space Typhoon in the end phase, but honestly, there's not much reason to, as we can't really get that aggressive here until we draw Change of Heart. That honestly changes things quite a bit here. We could get super aggressive, go for a big push, which I think we might want to do. We're going to try Mystical Space Typhooning just to get rid of it if it's like a Mirror Force. But unfortunately, they did draw Waboku, which prevents our options here quite a bit. We're going to Snatch Steal the Mechanical Chaser, and we know that they've still got a Change of Heart and Fisher in hand. So if they draw a monster here, they could just Change of Heart the Mechanical Chaser and win that way. So we don't want that to happen. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to Reborn, targeting Flying Kamakiri, and actually activate Rising Air Current, so that way if they do Fisher, they'll have to kill the Mechanical Chaser. This is still a bit susceptible if they draw another monster, like they've got a lot of damage on board, but they're going to have that either way, and this is a little bit more insulation. So we're going to do that and pass. We're in a very, very risky board state here, but we've just got to hope that it all works out fine for us. Unfortunately, they did draw a Mystical Space Typhoon, so they will be able to clear the Snatch Steal, and they do have Change of Heart, so that will just be the end of the game. So a bit of a worse showing for the deck. Maybe if I had Mystical Space Typhoon with the Trap Hole first thing, it would have gone a little bit better. But honestly, we just bricked a lot there. We drew Rising Air Current and Harpy Lady Sisters in the opener, which is never a good thing. And we just didn't have enough options to deal with what they had. So, a bit of a rough game too, but let's hope that was just a bit of a fluke, and we can get better luck in Game 3. So we're going to go into Game 3, and this is an okay hand. We have Forceful in the opener, which is always great. So we do get to see what they've got. And this is a pretty stacked hand on their part. They've got Dark Hole, Snatch Steal, and Reborn, which are all incredibly good. And they've also got Magician of Faith and Mechanical Chaser as well. So they can get aggressive, and they have a Spell Recycler later on. This is a bit of a tough choice. A lot of good options here. But we are going to actually take the Faith, so that way they won't be able to recycle whatever powerful spells they use up. In addition, we do have Mystical Space Typhoon for the Snatch Steal, so we're not too worried about that. And we can just set the Witch first turn in case they try to blind Dark Hole. So, we're feeling okay about this. We are just going to set the Witch, set a Mystical Space Typhoon, pass back to them. And I think we should be pretty good here. They bring out Mechanical Chaser, which we do know they have. They're going to attack into our set. It's a Witch, so we'll be able to grab a Harpy Lady to go for an Egotist play. We do know that they have Dark Hole as a follow-up here, which is quite unfortunate. But they're just going to set 2 and pass back to us. So if they just set 1, we could have had an easy blind MST here, but unfortunately, that's not quite the case here. A bit risky to go for the blind MST, so we're not going to do it and just hope that they don't have anything to deal with our board here. We're going to bring out a Harpy Lady, activate Egotist, and just go for the big play. Bring out a Harpy Lady Sisters, and attack into the Mechanical Chaser here. They've got Mirror Force, so that's a pretty good draw, and that will prevent us from getting over that Mechanical Chaser and deprive us of a lot of resources here. We'll be forced to pass back to them, and they're just going to attack in for 1850 with the Mechanical Chaser. Main 2, they're going to set another pass back to us. We could Mystical Space Typhoon, as we know that their first set is dead because it's just a spell card. But we are going to save the Mystical Space Typhoon for later, I think. We're going to set the Mystic Tomato and pass back to them and hope that this is enough. They will just attack into the Mystic Tomato, so we will be able to get out a monster here. We'll get out another Mystic Tomato, which is pretty good. They're just going to pass back to us. We draw a Cannon Soldier, which is nice, but not the best here. We're just going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser to try and crash into theirs and then attack in with the Tomato. But unfortunately, they have a Trap Hole. Not the worst. We can just switch Tomato to defense, pass back to them. And unfortunately, they draw a Fisher, so they do have a way to deal with that. And they will be able to get in for 1800 here. They're just going to pass back to us. We draw a Trap Hole a little bit too late to deal with this Mechanical Chaser. But we can set a Kamakiri just to prevent them from getting too aggressive here. They're going to attack into the Kamakiri. We will just get out another Kamakiri here. And main 2, they're just going to pass back to us. We draw Change of Heart, which is very good here. We know that they've gone through a Mirror Force. So we can just Change of Heart their Mechanical Chaser, summon out the Cannon Soldier here, and just try and get in. We know that that first set is dead, so we can just summon this out without fear of Trap Hole. So we're just going to attack in for a ton here, and then tribute off that Mechanical Chaser with the Cannon Soldier. And main 2, we're going to actually think about this a bit. We are going to tribute off the Cannon Soldier. We do know about the Dark Hole, and we're going to set the Trap Hole, pass back to them. If they use Dark Hole and Kamakiri, that's honestly okay by us because it's 1-for-1 removal and a card that could easily be more. They're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser. We will just Trap Hole that. They're going to think about this a bit. They do have Dark Hole, so they will clear the Kamakiri. And unfortunately, they do have the Reborn from earlier still, so they will be able to bring back that Mechanical Chaser, get in for 1850. And we'll drop down to 2450. They'll set another pass back to us. And we got to get something pretty good here. Duo is not that. We'll set the Harpy Lady in hand, set the duo, pass back to them, and hope that we get lucky here. Unfortunately, they set a Change of Heart, so that will just be the end of the game. Maybe we should have blind MST'd the second backer that they set, but I honestly think that would have been a little bit risky there. So I didn't really want to do it. And, you know, they really had to have, like, Change of Heart or Raigeki or something, like one of the power spells, to really kill us this turn. So I think, honestly, we did as good as we could here. But I think that these last two games really do show some of the major flaws with Harpy Ladies. It can be very good, as Game 1 showed, if you can get aggressive early on and just keep pushing the aggressive. But it does suffer from drawing bricks, and once the combo is exhausted, you know, the Harpy Ladies and the Egotists are kind of useless. And in a format like this, when there are so many answers to so many different things, that is a lot more of a risk than in Critter format. In addition, there are a lot more ways to sort of stall an offensive push in this format. Recruiters like Mystic Tomato can just bring out another monster to stem aggressive pressure. Ultimately, I think that this style of deck just isn't quite good enough to cut it in Treasure, even though it is a very interesting strategy and can be very fun. But what do you guys think about this deck? Do you think that, you know, Harpy Ladies actually does have a lot more potential than I'm giving it credit for, and maybe my build wasn't correct? Maybe you would cut the Rising Air Currents and replace it with something else. You know, I've seen other builds of the Harpy deck, and they've gone different directions. So what direction would you guys go in? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.